Good morning. We've got another rainy morning in the bluegrass, but the sun is trying to pop out. All the trees are so full now. It's kind of hard to see where we had such a clear view in the wintertime. Silver lining with all the leaves being off the tree and, that season. Now we've got to look harder for some things with everything in full bloom, which actually might be go along pretty well with our message today as we talk about that. I had to really spend some extra time with this because I'm like, this is a hard stuff to pin down. And I y'all know me. I love a good analogy because it helps me come to a better understanding. Y'all are seeing my bedhead this morning too. Oh man, today might be a nap day. Friday is usually my day where I get just a little bit behind on sleep every night because it's hard to get in bed by 9 o'clock and asleep by 9 every night. And so it's usually more like 10 or 10:30. And that adds up over the week. So today is often a self-care day of maybe doing a little afternoon siesta. So I hope you do some self-care too, because you matter. You're important. That's part of what we're going to talk about today. But just how important are you? And the pitfall when we're not tuned into God or our higher power, whatever, works for you and where you are in your spiritual journey. And how easily it is to get off track and fall into the trap of being overly self-important, prideful, conceited. That's the story of the Bible and the Old Testament. Is like, there we go again. We're getting slapped upside the head again. Like, there they did. Whoops, I did it again. Anyway, that is we're on back into the history of the people, and Isaiah coming in going, man, you messed up again. God is going to come in again and save you people. And in the process of saving the people, the community, the country, he's going to have to purge some of this pridefulness and deceitfulness. I did like that in chapter 3, there was a little verse that was like, and those of you that have been kind of getting it right, y'all will be okay. Don't worry. We see you. And we're not going to just wipe everybody out at the good with the bad. We're going to let the people that have really been earnestly, seeking the Lord, the godly, they're going to be okay. It's all you other people that got tuned into the wrong station. And I was coming up with analogies like untethered, plugged in, but God really did give us autonomy. This is a partnership, of course, well, not really a true partnership, but he gives us, he's living with us and in us, but he gives us full, control, choice, free will to be tuned into him or not. So it's almost more like, for those of us that remember the days of the old-fashioned radio, and maybe God is that AM station that we've really got to we've got to be in the right proximity. We've got to really be dialed in to stay tuned in and then live, and making sure that we're really spending time every day, going in, checking in, yep, I hear you. The signal is good. Signal's good. And then we're living from that place of always kind of checking in with that signal. Do my choices today align with the signal, what I know to be good, wise, true? Because our brains are so powerful. He made us so these supercomputers that we are, because we're not just brains, we're a nervous system, we're skin and body, and our brain is taking in all that information. And we live in a like multi-dimensional world too. So not only do we have to think and feel, but we have to perceive. And there's even this thing called proprioception, where I know where I am in this world in relationship to that tree, to other people, because I have to be able to survive. I have to be able to put, this is what they're dealing with as they're trying to come up with AI and robots and all this. They can't program proprioception. It's very hard. It's so complex. So we're amazing, amazing creatures. And so it's very easy to get out of tune. Like if we're not intentionally tuning in, we're picking up all the signals from everywhere else. And there's a lot of strong signals out there. Those AM rock stations that are like, yeah, come and listen to us. And we sound so good and we're funny and, we're entertaining. That's what we can do in the world, which is why, the church exists. But even churches get tuned into the wrong thing. So that's why even as an individual, you are responsible. Like we have been given a book, a manual that we are responsible for knowing, reading, digesting, taking it in, because even within the quote unquote church, body of Christ, or whatever, you belong to, we can get so whoever's in charge, because it's always people. What if they get tuned into the wrong thing? And it sounds good. Sounds true. Sounds right. Okay, I'll go with that. And we get so tuned into each other that we can, even with good intent, can be way off track. Like we've talked about that before too. And even with the analogy of ships and planes that are going long distances, and they can, even 1 degree that makes almost no difference in the moment, by the end of the trip, they're way off course. And that's what we can do if we're not careful. And that's, I think, exactly what we see the people of earth, at that time, Judah and Israel, God's people, doing. Like they're just being tuned in to everything else. So they are listening to and following the ways of people that are using idols, witchcraft, Eastern philosophy. He throws all the things in there. And this is not easy, this stuff. And it takes time and intention, and this being a priority. Yesterday we talked about devotion. You have to be devoted to tuning that dial in and picking up that signal. Otherwise, you can easily think that you're listening to the right signal, but you've picked up something else that's stronger when you start to even drift off a little. Like this, and then we've got like the realities of life on earth and our responsibilities. We have to survive. We've got to take care of our families and all of these things that are so important. And we can easily, even with the best of intentions, we can get off track. And so when we're tuned in, though, things that can become pitfalls when we're not tuned in, pride, conceit, even humbleness. Humbleness on its own, thinking less of yourself, is not the same thing as thinking of yourself less, right? Like, think about that. Even people that really take pride in being humble and modest and meek and open, which are characteristics that are talked about among the godly, if you're just humble just for the sake of being humble and I don't matter, and you think that's what humble means, that's also not good. That is on the verge of conceit too. When you are plugged into your signal or tuned in, and and you have a full, and you're aware all the time, I'm important, not because I'm important, because of He's important, and He made me, and He's in me, and I'm His representative, and I Also am his kind of co-creator. However, whatever's going on here, I am not alone. And everything I do is important because it reflects back on him. And I also know that I'm important because of that. So if I'm too humble and I think that I don't matter at all, then I'm also saying that about him. Oh, you don't really matter. We're just going to just mind our own business here on earth and just keep to ourselves and just be humble. Like, that's a double-edged sword too. But when we're tuned in, we have that right amount, like, because we are letting him be sort of the chef, the baker. He's putting just the right things in so that we are a beautiful, like, recipe. And we have, because I was really thinking about this, because in my coaching, when I'm working with clients and they come to me, and oftentimes they're in a negative place, like, oh, I can't do that, and I want them to feel pride for what they've done and what they've accomplished. Like, look, like, you really are trying, because those of us that really try so hard, and we're just never quite there. We've got all these lofty goals and we're just never there. And so we always see what's left to be done. There's a book I'm reading that I read recently that's called The Gap and the Gain. And they do a really good job of talking about this. But those are that have, like, we try so hard and we, but when you start to also accomplish things and really do start to go, wow, I really am doing a lot. If you're not tuned in to the right station and signal, then you're like, wow, I'm pretty great. And you start, putting yourself above others. And we've all got the same potential. And when you're getting it right, or when you've got the right signal in place, you can be the encourager to say, and you see, wow, I'm doing these things because, like, God has given you that capability too. Like, you become an encourager versus, hey, yeah, I'm getting it right over here and you just need to try harder because, and when you think it's all about you and your effort and you get caught up in that, and it's so easy to do. Sometimes we don't even know we're doing it and we're doing it. So always check yourself. I know as somebody who is sort of in a position where people, want to come to me for, to get some self-help, I have to every time remind myself, this person does not need to be fixed. They are not broken. They're just stuck. They're in a place where they can't see it in themselves. And I'm there to help them see it. But I've got to also do that by helping them have some proud moments, being proud of things, so that they can be encouraged, but not too much. Like, it's just that right recipe, or again, being tuned in, and on the right signal so that you kind of get it. And it's not easy. Some days we get it better, like the signal's clear, we walk a little way. We've got to get aligned and tuned in, right? And when you notice, it's like, wait a minute, things are getting a little off here. Maybe, oh yeah, I snapped at somebody because I got in that one up, one down position. They either triggered something in me that made me feel less than and I snapped, or they're just not measuring up to my expectations and I'm going to snap. And that's where, these characteristics or these words or concepts can get us into trouble. And when we're having relational trouble, again, we can almost always, the only thing that we can really do anything about is us. We can always go back and look in the mirror and say, because it takes two to tango. It's not all the other person's fault. You engaged somehow in that. So you can always go back in the mirror and learn and say, okay, tune in, dial that in first. Because if you try to go over here, and that's what we get tempted to do a lot. We go to our friends who are like, yeah, you're right, and that person is a dum-dum, and blah, 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 And then we're tuned into this station that's just reinforcing maybe not the most helpful message that we need to get. So while it is good, and we do need to be heard and vent and just get it out, we don't need to stay there. We need to make sure that we've got a few sources that we're kind of fact checking things with. But the most important one is, at least for me, or whatever you're, again, this is for you to figure out for yourself. But for me, my filter, everything, the Bible is like it. It is timeless. It has survived. Like I'm putting my trust in it. I'm putting my eggs in that basket. And that's what I'm staying tuned into, because over the thousands of years, it has been time tested, and the people that seem to get it right, and that doesn't mean everybody that believes in it. There are a lot of people that believe in it that don't stay tuned in. They're not doing that work. And there's no pride here. Like, I am not better than. I am not wiser than. I still make a lot of dumb decisions. I still snap at people. I still don't treat myself very well. But being tuned in is helping my life go in a better direction and be better overall. It is having more peace. And in Isaiah 2, that's what they start off with, this picture of peace. And when you have too much pride, too much conceit, all of those things, it doesn't harmonize. You cannot have peace and pride and conceit and too much self and also have peace. Peace comes from being able to put the self in the proper position. Hopefully that makes sense. And I think that tuning in analogy, the signal, is good, because we're not robots. We don't need to be plugged in. I know, sometimes that is a good analogy, but I don't think that really captures the essence of what we've got going on here. It's more like a signal. And we got a lot of signals flying around. You're getting signals from me. They're putting my face together on video with voice instantaneously on your phone if you're tuned into this. So take everything I say. Like, I'm a rookie reading the Bible for the first time. My intent and my heart, I think, is good. But, fact check, it for yourself. Don't trust me and listen to me just because I sound good and sound right. We've got each are responsible for doing this for ourselves. Anyway, and then finding consistency and evidence out in the world for what actually is true too, because there are laws and principles that are at work that can be tested and be validation for all of these bigger concepts, which is my whole purpose of actually doing this and testing and validating everything that I learned from an outside source to help my clients. I'm kind of validating and testing that through the Bible. I'm putting it through that filter so that then I can take what's left and truly have some confidence, not self-confidence, but confidence that I am really helping people from a good and true place, from a good signal, and from time-tested thoughts and principles, and not just things that sound good over there, but then when we test them out, not so good. We got a lot of that going on out there, a lot of noise, a lot of stations to tune into that sound true, sound right, get us all hyped and excited, and then we do it and we're like, ah! Anyway, I have rambled on enough, and I love ya. Go rise and shine. Make it a great day. It is Friday where I am, which means sort of a self-care day, and kind of recharging my own battery. And anyway, have a great day. Go rise and shine. If you're going to rise, you might as well shine and tune in. All right, to truth. Bye.